Hello, fabulous Gemini. Welcome to your horoscope for the year of 2015 Love Focus. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. This year we are going to have Saturn moving through your opposite sign. Now this is huge in the context of love. I spoke about this at length in the Saturn special for your sign. Really at length, I explored what it's going to be like for you as Saturn moves through your opposite sign, not only this year, but really for the better part of the next 3 years. So I would advise you to have a look at that to get a more complete picture of some of the learning, the lessons, and the experiences that are likely to arise for you over the course of this year in the context of love. But what is unique to what is taking place this year, in addition to that, which is actually huge, like let's be honest, Saturn moving through your opposite sign, anybody who knows even a little bit about astrology, even a beginner student of astrology, comes to understand that this is huge in the context of love. Having said that, what we also have happening this year that I think is going to be important for you is the fact that for the better part of those brief months that Saturn is not actually in your opposite sign, what we are going to have is Venus traveling backwards in the sky in the middle of the year. So in late June, Venus will enter shadow. Late July throughout August will be retrograde. And then in September, we'll go direct. And in October, we'll leave shadow. And so this is all happening in a part of the sky that has to do with, among a lot of things, it has to do with sharing. It has to do with messages, especially those that you write or you type, if you will, online, exchanging messages as well. It also has to do with siblings, cousins, and neighbors. And so when I look at this, yes, you're having these serious lessons, you're coming to understand what you really want in love and being really honest with yourself about that. However, what we also have taking place for you this year, in the middle of the year, it does suggest to me that you are connecting with people. There's no shortage of options. If you're open to it, there's no shortage of options. You're also finding yourself communicating more. If you're in an established bond, you are communicating more. If you are open to meeting somebody new, this is a time when your sibling or cousin could connect you with somebody, okay? Also, this is a time when a romance could begin with a neighbor. Now, here's the thing with Venus retrograde, and I have seen this again and again in the lives of so many people, whether or not they're astrologers. Especially when you're open to love, meeting somebody, beginning a relationship while Venus is doing this dance, shadow, retrograde, shadow, tends to, especially in the beginning and especially in the retrograde cycle, it isn't necessarily mean that it won't be something that lasts a really long time. However, it can mean that, and often does mean that, if you meet somebody new, chances are you're not seeing the big picture, or you're not getting a clear perspective of who they are. And it's not necessarily intentional, okay? But what it means is you want to pace yourself a little bit. Give yourself just a little bit time to get to know who this person is, and to allow them to fully reveal who they are to you as well. And I think you're going to find that it ends up actually surprising you quite a bit as well. Now, that could be for better or not. But regardless, just know it's natural in the beginning when you meet somebody anyways, not to always know everything about this person. But this really is meeting somebody and thinking you know, and then realizing after the fact or later on down the road that really you didn't. Some key elements that you thought were there maybe were not, or are different than you expected. What I do really like about this is that it tends to be a really passionate time. So we're more open to love, which is great. And for you in particular, it does look like, as I said, there's a connection there with neighbors as well. So if you end up, because I'm seeing this with some people, if you end up having, seeing a neighbor, a new neighbor or otherwise, and thinking, oh, wow, this is somebody I would really like to get to know. Again, just know that you may not be getting the complete picture, and depending on where you live and how close of a neighbor they are, after the fact, if you decide, once we get you towards the end of this very special time of Venus going back and forth, in the part of the sky that has to do with neighbors for you. Once you get towards the end of it, once you're into the fall, if you should change your mind and decide something different, just know that depending how close they are, you may actually have to keep seeing this person or keep running into this person. And that may be one way that Saturn ends up speaking to you, because so much of the learning and the lessons coming up for you have to do with the context of love. There's lots of online flirting and things going on, especially in the middle of the year. And again, keep in mind that you as the reader are interacting with the text. You are interpreting the text. So you may not actually be getting a complete picture about who this person is and what they're sharing and what the intention is behind the words, because you are creating meaning of those words. You're bringing your entire experience and who you are to that moment of interpretation. And so even that can be interpreted in ways that maybe were not completely intended. So just keep that in mind. This is especially true if you meet somebody and you're not actually, you know, I have to say, because we see examples of this quite a lot, of people who pretend to be something but actually are not. They might even not be using their real photos. They might not be completely honest about who it is that they are. So just keep that in mind, because it does look like there may be some elements of that playing out. Might not be intentional at all. I'm not saying any of that is intentional, but it does look like it could be a possibility. But one thing that is really great about this is that it is a really good time to experiment. So if you are somebody who is not really comfortable or doesn't really feel ready, maybe you've been single for a while, that is going to change starting this year for sure. But if you're trying to figure out who you are and what it means and what it feels like to actually flirt and interact with others, you're trying to build up that skill, then actually going online and allowing yourself to do that a little bit could actually end up being really good for you. This idea of misunderstandings, regardless of your romantic place right now, whether you're in a relationship or dating somebody or single, there is this element there of maybe not understanding completely, not realizing the fullness of the situation. And so keep that in mind, that sort of miscommunications are possible under this vibration. So cut your partner a little bit of a break, but just know that you are also at the beginning of a cycle that is either going to strengthen your bond. If you're in an established bond, you will either, over the course of the coming 3 years, be strengthened considerably more, or you will be honest with yourself and realize this person may or may not be the one for you. And regardless of where you are, one thing that Saturn really likes is truth. One thing that Venus really likes is love and joy and fun and acceptance. And so that is going to have to be found on the realm of being with somebody that you know you can talk to, being with somebody that you know you have a mental connection with. That is really going to matter. Now, Venus retrograde is infamous for bringing people back into the fold from your past. And especially for you, you may end up making online connections with people from your past. And so this is a chance for you to see what was, to either give it another shot or to realize why it was that it didn't work, and to be cool with that and to make peace with that, and to forgive where it is appropriate to forgive as well. And I gotta say, like I'm telling all signs out there, I know summer weddings are really big, but especially for you, given that Venus is going to be in a part of the sky that has to do with agreements, as it is, Venus retrograde is really not the best time to get married, astrologically speaking. It's pretty much universally among astrology circles anyways, thought of as not the best sort of time to be making that type of commitment. And for you in particular, I would say, because of the element of agreements showing up here, really making that agreement, if you're actually signing something in the context of getting married, maybe if it can be helped, to try and do it after October, or try to do something a little bit earlier in the year before we get into the summer, because the summer itself with Venus retrograde, not necessarily the strongest time. However, what I do really like is once we are not in the summer, especially when we're in the early part of the year, or in the late part of the year in particular, what I really like is that if you end up getting married in those time frames, and especially a little further down the road into 2016, it does look like if you do end up getting married, those are very stable times to be getting married, times when the marriage has the omens behind it to suggest that it would be one that is solid and stable and secure as well. One thing is for sure though, the universe really wants you to get clear on what you want and to actually speak it and give words to it, especially in the context of love. You are really at the beginning of learning a tremendous amount in the context of love and partnership. This year will help you tremendously in that regard to figure out what you deserve and to figure out how to actually state that, how to actually communicate that. Once you know that you can do that and you're rooting your words in a sense of self-value, you will find that the love that you desire, a stable kind of love, reveals itself naturally to you.